On a frozen November morning in 1942, in the smoking ruins of Stalingrad, a young Soviet clerk named Vasily Zaitsev raised a standard-issue rifle, no scope, no special equipment, and fired a single shot across 800 meters of devastation. An enemy officer dropped. Two more Germans appeared at the window to check on their fallen comrade. Two more shots, two more bodies. In that moment, watching through binoculars from a command post, a Soviet officer realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just good shooting. This was a weapon that could turn the tide of the most brutal battle in human history. Within days, Zaitsev would become the face of Soviet resistance, a hunter from the Ural Mountains whose rifle would claim 225 confirmed kills in just 10 weeks and inspire thousands of Soviet snipers to eliminate over 6,000 German soldiers. The Nazis, terrified by whispers of an unstoppable phantom picking off their officers and machine gunners, allegedly sent their own master marksman to eliminate him, setting up what would become the most legendary sniper duel ever told, a story so dramatic that historians still debate whether it actually happened. But here's what we know for certain. While Hollywood focused on that mythical duel, the real story of Vasily Zaitsev is even more remarkable. A tale of a man who learned to hunt wolves as a child, who begged 5 times to leave his comfortable desk job and fight, and who developed revolutionary sniper tactics that transformed individual marksmanship into industrial-scale psychological warfare, breaking the spirit of the German Sixth Army soldier by soldier, bullet by bullet, until the Nazi advance at Stalingrad and perhaps the entire Eastern Front ground to a halt. If you want to see more untold stories from history's greatest battles, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which World War II hero we should cover next.
Vasily Grigoryevich Zaitsev was born on March 23, 1915, in the village of Yeleninovsk in the Chelyabinsk region of the Ural Mountains. His grandfather taught him to hunt at a very early age. As a child, Vasily would spend days in the taiga together with his younger brother, tracking wolves, setting traps, and sleeping in the snow. The Ural wilderness was unforgiving, a place where survival depended on precision and patience. He brought home his first trophy at the age of 12, a wolf that he shot with a single bullet from his first personal weapon, a large single-barreled Burdon rifle, which he was just barely able to carry behind his back at the time. As bullets were scarce, Vasily learnt to pull the trigger just once per animal. This is how he grew up to become a sharpshooter. These lessons from his grandfather would echo through Zaitsev's entire life: patience, concealment, conservation of ammunition, and above all, the understanding that a hunter must be invisible. Vasily said that a sniper had to be invisible. The ability to mask was always number one for him. Time didn't exist for him when he was waiting for another target. And of course, his extraordinary cold blood and self-control. After finishing 7 years of school, Vasily graduated from Construction Technical School in Magnitogorsk, where he trained as a fitter. He then completed accounting courses, skills that seemed far removed from his boyhood in the forests, but would shape the early years of his military service.
In 1937, Vasily was recruited into the Red Army, but not as a soldier destined for combat. Zaitsev was serving in the Soviet Navy as a clerk in Vladivostok, stationed in the Pacific Fleet, where he handled financial paperwork. World War II caught a future hero in the position of a chief of finance in the Pacific Fleet, where he had been serving since 1937. Zaitsev had a good position, and the command appreciated him a lot. He could have sat out the entire war in relative comfort, thousands of miles from the fighting, pushing papers while his countrymen died. But Vasily Zaitsev was not that kind of man. By the summer of 1942, Vasily applied 5 times with a request to forward him to the front. 5 rejections. 5 times he was told he was more valuable as a clerk than as a soldier. But Zaitsev was relentless. Finally, in the summer of 1942, as the Wehrmacht smashed toward Stalingrad and the Soviet Union's survival hung by a thread, his commanders relented. His request was satisfied, and Zaitsev was sent to the 284th Rifle Division. He had attained the rank of Chief Petty Officer in the Navy and was assigned the rank of Senior Warrant Officer upon transfer to the Army.
He was assigned to the 1047th Rifle Regiment of the 284th Tomsk Rifle Division, which became part of the 62nd Army at Stalingrad on 17 September 1942. On the September night of 1942, together with other recruits, was sent across the Volga to defend Stalingrad. The city he entered was unrecognizable as anything human beings had built. Stalingrad had become an inferno of rubble, twisted metal, and death. German bombers and artillery had reduced entire neighborhoods to ash and broken concrete. The city had suffered a lot of damage during the fighting between the Germans and Soviets. Over the course of the over 5-month battle, nearly 750,000 Axis soldiers are estimated to have been killed. The Soviets fared even worse, losing more than 1.1 million troops. He got to the city where he pronounced the words which got into a mess. "For us, soldiers and commanders of the 62nd Army, there's no land beyond the Volga. We stood and will stand to death." These words would become legendary, capturing the desperate determination of the Soviet defenders, who knew that losing Stalingrad meant losing the war. Zaitsev got to the front as a simple soldier. He didn't become a sniper immediately. Several times he had a hand-to-hand fight with the enemy. He even managed to get a bayonet wound, but he never left the ranks. In the brutal street fighting, where German and Soviet soldiers fought room by room, floor by floor, sometimes grappling with knives and entrenching tools in the darkness, Zaitsev proved he could endure.
But it was his marksmanship that caught his commanding officer's attention. Then one day, Zaitsev's commanding officer called him up and pointed at an enemy officer in a window 800 meters away. Vasily took aim from his standard-issue Mosin Nagant rifle, and with one shot, the officer was down. In less than a few moments, 2 other Nazi soldiers appeared in the window, checking their fallen officer. Vasily fired 2 more shots, and they were killed. 800 meters, with an unscoped rifle. 3 shots, 3 kills. The officer who witnessed this immediately understood this was not luck. This was mastery. Only a month of battle later, Vasily was given the medal for bravery. By that time, Zaitsev had killed 32 enemy soldiers with his rifle without a sniper sight. But his main award was a sniper rifle with an optical sight, which was presented to him together with a medal. For this, together with the Medal for Valor, Vasily was also awarded a sniper rifle. Armed with his new Mosin Nagant with a PU optical sight, Zaitsev's effectiveness multiplied. In his first 10 days in the war-torn city, Zaitsev shot 40 Germans. The Russians were so impressed with his success that they quickly made him a trainer for incoming snipers.
Zaitsev didn't just kill Germans, he created a system. The talented shooter and expert sniper also partook in training other snipers, who were unofficially dubbed the Zaychata, little hares, taken from Zayets, Russian for hare, the root of the surname Zaitsev. He taught them everything his grandfather had taught him in the Ural forests, adapted now for urban warfare. Zaitsev would conceal himself in various locations, for example on high ground, under rubble, or in water pipes. After a few kills, he would change his position or relocate. Zaitsev tried not to operate in the setting sun. As it dipped towards the horizon, the sun could become reflected in a rifle's optical sight, betraying a sniper's position. The morning sun, however, glinted in the binoculars of German officers and spotters and the sights of enemy sniper rifles. He developed specific tactics for the ruins of Stalingrad. Together with his partner Nikolai Kulikov, Zaitsev perfected his hide-and-sting tactics. One method was to cover a large area from 3 positions with 2 men at each point, a sniper and a scout. This became known as the Sixes method. 3 pairs, positioned to create overlapping fields of fire, constant observation, and mutual protection. Zaitsev told those under his guidance, "You watch a German officer come out of a bunker, acting all high and mighty, ordering his soldiers every which way and putting on an air of authority. Target the arrogant. Target those who thought themselves safe. Target anyone who revealed German positions."
What made Zaitsev truly devastating wasn't just his personal kill count. It was how his fame spread. Soviet propagandists seized on his story, and the name Vasily Zaitsev began appearing in newspapers, on posters, in radio broadcasts. With his own name, Zaitsev inspired Soviet soldiers and spread panic among German soldiers. German soldiers who had steamrolled across Europe now found themselves terrified to peek over rubble, afraid to light cigarettes, paralyzed by the thought that somewhere in the ruins, the ghost sniper was watching through a scope. In the course of the fighting in Stalingrad, Zaitsev eliminated 11 enemy snipers, further cementing his reputation as the hunter of hunters. Between 10 November 1942 and 17 December 1942, during the Battle of Stalingrad, he killed 225 enemy soldiers. But his impact extended far beyond his personal tally. Snipers of the 62nd Army, inspired by the feats of their comrade, defeated more than 6,000 German soldiers. Think about that. Inspired by one man's example, Soviet snipers eliminated 6,000 Germans, the equivalent of nearly 2 full infantry regiments. This wasn't just combat. It was force multiplication through reputation.
Zaitsev fought at the Battle of Stalingrad until January 1943, when a mortar attack injured his eyes. The explosion that nearly ended his career came during one of his missions. Zaitsev and 13 soldiers had to break up a German attack on one of Stalingrad front sections. Zaitsev practiced a new battle tactic on this task: group hunting. The mission was completed, but in the heat of the fight, Vasily went into an open attack on German foot troops and was seriously wounded. Zaitsev fainted for a while. However, Zaitsev lost his vision. For a sniper, blindness is a death sentence, but Zaitsev's story wasn't over. The doctor who treated Zaitsev and eventually restored his eyesight was ophthalmologist Vladimir Filatov, founder of the Filatov Institute of Eye Diseases and Tissue Therapy in Odessa, and a pioneer in corneal transplantation. However, after several operations, he got his sight back, and on February 10th, he saw the light again. Vasily was back on the front again. Before returning to combat, while still recovering, on 22 February 1943, Zaitsev was awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor the Soviet Union could bestow.
Zaitsev recruited and trained other marksmen during his service in Stalingrad. He returned to the front and finished the war at the Battle of the Seelow Heights in Germany with the rank of captain. All the rest military time, Zaitsev was the head of a sniper's school and a commander of a mortar platoon and a company commander later. He also took part in battles for Donbass, Dnieper, and Odessa. He met the victory in the Second World War in the position of a captain. Vasily Zaitsev was awarded with the title of the Hero of the Soviet Union, got the Order of Lenin and the Gold Star Medal. Only in Stalingrad he defeated 225 enemy soldiers and officers. 11 of them were snipers. Zaitsev managed to defeat about 240 enemy soldiers during the war.
But his contribution extended far beyond his personal kill count. During the war, he published 2 sniper books. He also worked out a sniper's move called sixes. His methods, refined in the crucible of Stalingrad, would influence Soviet and later Russian sniper doctrine for decades.
After the war, Zaitsev settled in Kiev, now Kyiv, where he studied at a textile university before obtaining employment as an engineer. He rose to become the director of a textile factory. It was a quiet life for a man who had once been the most feared sniper on the Eastern Front. Following the war, anti-spy paranoia ran rampant in Russia. Despite his status as a war hero, he was held in a pretrial detention center from 1951 to 1953. Even heroes weren't immune to Stalin's paranoid purges. Once released, Zaitsev returned to his work, never seeking glory or recognition beyond what he had already received. He remained in that city until he died on 15 December 1991 in Kiev at the age of 76, just 11 days before the dissolution of the Soviet Union. He was buried in Kiev, although he wished to be buried in Stalingrad that he had defended. For 15 years his grave remained in Kiev, far from the city where he had become a legend. But on 31 January 2006, Vasily Zaitsev was reburied with full military honors at the Stalingrad Memorial at Mamayev Kurgan in Volgograd, Russia, on the 63rd anniversary of the Battle of Stalingrad. His wish came true on the 63rd anniversary of the Battle of Stalingrad, when Vasily Zaitsev was reburied with full military honors at Mamayev Kurgan in Volgograd, a monument in honor of the millions of victims of the battle. Today he rests among the 35,000 Soviet defenders buried at Mamayev Kurgan, the hill that became the focal point of some of the fiercest fighting in the Battle of Stalingrad.
Vasily Zaitsev said, "A good sniper is a sniper alive. Sniper's feat is so that he does his job again and again. To succeed in this hard work, one has to make a feat every day and every minute, beat the enemy and stay alive." This philosophy, survival through skill, persistence through patience, defined his approach to combat. Whether or not the legendary duel with Koenig happened as described, the core truth remains. Vasily Zaitsev was instrumental in breaking the German advance at Stalingrad. His 225 verified kills represented 225 German soldiers who would never fire another shot, never call in another artillery strike, never lead another assault. But more importantly, he created a system that multiplied his effectiveness 100-fold through the snipers he trained. The psychological impact was immense. German soldiers in Stalingrad developed sniper paranoia, afraid to move during daylight, unable to trust any piece of cover. Command and control broke down when officers couldn't expose themselves to give orders. Morale crumbled under the constant threat of sudden death from an invisible enemy. Stalingrad was the turning point of World War II on the Eastern Front. The German Sixth Army, once considered invincible, was surrounded, starved, and ultimately destroyed. Of the 330,000 Germans trapped in the pocket, only 91,000 survived to surrender, and only 6,000 of those would eventually return home from Soviet captivity. The myth of German invincibility was shattered, and the tide of the war turned irrevocably against Hitler. Vasily Zaitsev didn't win that battle alone. Hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers fought and died in Stalingrad's ruins. But his rifle, and the rifles of the snipers he inspired, played a role far beyond their size. They proved that in modern warfare, a single skilled individual with the right tool could become a strategic weapon. From wolf-hunting child to clerk to legend, Vasily Zaitsev's journey embodies the unexpected heroes that total war creates. He never sought fame. He simply answered his nation's call, applied the skills his grandfather taught him in the Ural forests, and became one of the deadliest soldiers of the deadliest war in human history. His Mosin Nagant rifle, the one with the PU scope that claims so many German lives, is kept in a Stalingrad Battle museum, and everyone can see it. It sits in a glass case now, silent and still, a reminder that sometimes the smallest weapon, in the right hands, can change the course of history.